This week on The Real Housewives of Atlanta.
What? Okay? No matter what. When I call you a friend, I mean this. I was hurt tonight. So we gonna get through this too. This is a real sisterhood. I look at you like a...
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 16, Episode 14. Let's get right into this. Okay, guys, so before we even get into the episode, oh my, how have things changed in the span of a week? So, reunion was supposed to film on Thursday, and they did film the reunion on Thursday, but as they usually do, they released that seating chart. Right away, we all saw that there was someone who was notably absent, Brit Eady. So before you knew it, we started noticing, we started asking questions, and we started getting some answers. So yes, Brit skipped the reunion. Yes, Brit quit the show. And yes, Brit is suing Bravo for millions of dollars. And she revealed some crazy things. For example, she revealed that up until that day, she found out that the woman in the pictures that Kenya, those explicit pictures that Kenya showed in the grand opening of her salon, apparently that was not Brit. It was somebody else. So that is just so problematic in and of itself. Like, Bravo, y'all said over and over and over again that y'all had done an investigation, and that's why it led y'all to do the things you did, the actions that you took. Well, apparently your investigations ain't worth crap if that was the wrong person in the picture. I can't, because you remember, Brit didn't see these pictures, so this whole entire time, based off of what everyone else has been saying, she thought it was her, but it wasn't. And so that means that Brit got upset for nothing, and then Kenya got suspended for nothing. So it's a mess. It is a mess. I don't know how this is going to end. And then another thing I want to share with you all is that I got tickets for BravoCon. So yes, I will be going and attending BravoCon this November in Las Vegas. It was, you guys, it was war trying to get these damn tickets, okay? And they were expensive. But you know what? I said, listen, I gotta do it because y'all know I love Bravo reality TV shows. So I can't wait to meet all of these people. And we're still, a long time from that date. But whenever I do go, I'm going to be letting y'all know, taking pictures and everything. So I'm just happy that I got those tickets. So I wanted to share that with y'all real quick. But let's get into this episode because surprisingly, this was actually one of the better episodes of the season, which is kind of, ironic given what we know now, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. So let's get into it. It's day 2 of the Grenada trip. The women are waking up. Apparently the night before, Brit was a mess. She was throwing up. She took her corset off. So we see Angela. So she's trying to get in contact with her husband. She calls multiple times, but he won't answer. I feel bad for her. I mean, it's the morning. It was just her anniversary. Of course, a woman would want to talk to her husband, before doing anything else. Even just to say good morning. But this husband of hers, Charles, he's nowhere to be found. He's not answering. Cynthia goes over to Phaedra and Brit's villa. Cynthia says to Brit, girl, I heard you were throwing up. And Brit says, yeah. She says that she doesn't do shots because shots are for college girls and she's a wife. Okay. Also, remember Shamea's luggage was left in Atlanta? Well, they can't track it right now, so she still doesn't have it. Luckily, she had a few outfits in her carry-on bag, but everything else is still not there. So then everyone sort of makes their way into this villa with Phaedra and everyone else, except Porsha. She was still getting ready. Kelli tells them what they are going to be doing today. They're going to be splitting into 2 groups. And Phaedra's like, dang, Kelli, you scream a lot. And she says that Kelli is like a gnome, almost as if a gnome and Tinkerbell got together and they made Kelli. And that's why she's so loud, because she's so small. But honestly, listen, I don't have a problem with people being loud. Matter of fact, I want you to be loud so I can hear you clearly. Cynthia says, I just don't like the over-talking. That's what I don't like. And Brit says, well, yeah, because last night I had the crystal indicating that it was my turn to speak, but y'all wouldn't listen. There was a lot of over-talking happening. So Shamea says, yeah, but, at that point, we had changed the conversation, and you wanted the Crystal to bring up something about Phaedra's ex, which was out of nowhere. Brit says, yeah, but it was my turn to speak. When it's my turn, it's my turn. And before you know it, there was some sort of weird tension, some sort of shade, energy between Shamea and Brit. But anyway, they get in the cars, the two groups, Shamea, Cynthia, Phaedra, and Porsha get in one. And Porsha brings up that Brit, she had also been a little snappy towards Shamea last night because Shamea had offered her drinks and Brit said don't try and get me to drink. So that's something that Porsha definitely noticed from the night before. Shamea then says, well, what we need to talk about is her donating 3 paper towels to Grenada. And she says that Kelli feels this way as well. And Phaedra's like, what? 3 paper towels? When you're giving for charity, it should be no less than $1,000. And listen, Phaedra has the right to speak on this because let's not forget the thousands that she paid to that Married to Medicine charity for Jackie's event. Okay, so let's not forget that. They also talk a little bit about Drew. They kind of all just throw some shit. Except Cynthia. Cynthia is the peacemaker, so she sits this one back. But Phaedra, Shamea, and Porsha, they were going in on Drew. This car was the familiar people that we kind of all know. And so the other one had the newbies. So speaking of Angela, Phaedra keeps on mentioning that she knows Charles, but she's never really ever known him to be married. Also, the women somehow managed to get a sit down with the Prime Minister of Grenada, so they're going to be doing that later today. So these 4 that were just in this car that I was mentioning, they go off into the forest. They look at some animals. Phaedra didn't want to be anywhere near this monkey that they had, and I get it, because monkeys kind of creep me out too. And then they go to this waterfall, and it was a very nice waterfall. They took some great pics. So the others, they go to this place where they have drinks made for them, but what they do is that they're going to hit the kitchen. So there are some chefs there that are going to show them how to cook a traditional dish from Grenada, and the ladies are seeing this, and they're also helping along. So it's a little bit more hands-on. But let's get back to group number 1. So after they are in this waterfall and everything, they sit down to have some lunch. Phaedra says that she's had fun getting to know Brit, but she did think that it was a bit weird that Brit mentioned Apollo and how he went to her party. She didn't think Brit was coming for her, but she felt it was just kind of weird to say. I will say, to be fair, when Brit brought this up, I didn't think it was shade or anything like that. I personally think that Brit just wanted to be transparent and let Phaedra know before something was assumed. I think that's what it was. Porsha also brings up how Brit has been mentioning that she doesn't feel supported by the cast. But Brit, Porsha says, also doesn't reach out or doesn't try to be included. Also, Shamea and Porsha seemed to be better than ever. They were joking, singing together. They were very, very happy. But back to these other ladies. So they're having their meal that they just prepared. And Brit says that she's really enjoying spending time with Angela and Drew. Because remember, they didn't have a great start. They've had issues, but things are actually surprisingly very good. Kelli then asks Drew about her friend Black. Okay, Kelli wants to know the dirt, but Drew is still sticking to her story. We're friends, nothing's happened, and she says that if she were in love, she would be the first to scream it out from the top of a mountain. But she says that there really is nothing going on. So that is it for the activities. Everybody then returns to the houses. They had time to relax, and then later that night, they all got dressed up for dinner. We see Angela finally get in contact with Charles. She says, do you miss me? And he's like, yeah. And she says, this is my first anniversary without you. I wish I was with you. And he just says, okay. And, she's trying to have a conversation, but he just has these one-word responses. Okay. Yeah. Okay. He's being super dry. Seemed a little uninterested, and I get it because some people had told me in some previous videos of Atlanta that I had made that this is just his personality. That's just how he is. He's just a serious guy. And yeah, I get that for sure. That is just how some people are. But if his wife wants something more, then I think he should provide it. But then again, it's their marriage. So if she doesn't tell him, then why should I care? But I do think that just to me, this is just my opinion, it definitely doesn't give I love you, Angela, which I think is a little sad. Okay, so when the ladies got ready, some of them met up, and Shamea's making some passive-aggressive comments towards Brit, so that was definitely very noticed. So the women all look good. I would say that, in my personal opinion, Shamea, Phaedra, and Brit, I would say those three were my favorite, like, outfit-wise. So, anywho, they get to this restaurant, they're ordering, and Kelli tells them that throughout the day, she had personally had conversations with people here, and they talked about the impact that the hurricane had in their communities. So she's really grateful that all the women were able to give to the country. So here goes Shamea. She says, yeah, I think that if we have the ability to give and be big, then we should also be big when it comes to charity. You know, we can't be pulling up on Bentleys and have Birkins and driving Rolls Royce and not give when it actually counts. And here's the thing, Brit's not dumb. She knows it's shade, and she says it. She's like, it sounds like shade because I showed up in a Rolls Royce. And Shamea says, well, a lot of us have Birkins and Rolls Royce. If I was throwing shade, you would know it. No, I wasn't. But that's where I think that was a misstep from Shamea, because Shamea, that was shade. And mind you, it was reasonable shade. Like, you should be saying that, but like, just be straight up and say it. Don't be like doing it passively aggressively, and then when someone says, is that shade, you're like, oh no, it's not. Yeah, it is. Say it is and stand on it, like, as you should. So Kelli jumps in and she says, yeah, you know, Brit doesn't give the best donations, but she doesn't know how much to give, and that's why we're saying to her now to be big in all aspects. And Brit is she doesn't say anything when Kelli says this, but she's definitely taken aback by this, because that is supposed to be her best friend. And, you know, to be fair, I would probably feel the same way if I was Brit. Like, you probably should say that to me privately instead of saying this in front of everybody. But at the same time, Brit should have some damn common sense and know that you should probably give more than 3 paper towels. I mean, come on. Brit also says to Shamea, you literally, told me what to give, like what you wanted. I talked to you. And they start to go back and forth. Shamea says, calm down. You're being very aggressive. I'm not going to talk to her if she's being like this. So Brit was a little heated. So she says, does anybody else want to say something directly to me? So Porsha jumps in and she says, well, you told us that we don't support you, but you don't seem to be very open to it anyway. And Brit says, is that a question or a statement? And Porsha says, Brit, I'm trying to have a peaceful conversation. And Brit says, well, Porsha, if you can't even save my phone number and acknowledge me in a text message, like, what do you expect me to do? Brit is making reference to the group chat that they have, and Porsha said, who is this, when Brit sent a message because she didn't have her number saved. So I guess Brit's still mad about this. So Brit and Porsha have a little bit of a back and forth. Brit, Porsha. Brit says, you gotta let me finish, baby. And Porsha's like, oh, no, not baby. You asked. And Brit says, you cut me off, Porsha. But Shamea says, like, can we please button this because the Prime Minister is here. So the Prime Minister got there. He's young. He seemed very nice. He sits with them. The ladies tell him a little bit about Atlanta. He talks about his children. I like that in the ladies' confessional, they played a little game, who would be the best Grenada First Lady, and they kind of said what their opinion was. He only stayed there for a little bit, and then he left. One of them, though, they mentioned that once he had left, they said, he has kids, but I noticed that he didn't have a ring. So Brit says, well, I know a lot of married men that don't wear their wedding rings. And Angela just casually says, yeah, my husband doesn't wear his. And everybody's like, oh. I appreciate Angela's honesty. She is very transparent. And I then thought it was so sweet that they had a cake brought out for Angela for her anniversary. She got emotional. And I'm glad they did that, because Angela is very nice and she definitely needs the support. So that was a nice ending to the dinner. But after the dinner, Brit's still nonstop going on about Shamea and Porsha. And Phaedra happened to be in the car with her, and she schooled her. Not in a mean way, but in like a firm way. She said, first of all, never give less than $1,000. Show yourself friendly everywhere you go. Don't put yourself in the hot seat. If anybody wants to come over to your house, you better be ready to receive them and have a charcuterie board. Pheadra was dropping some gems on some of these housewives. Like, that is how you do it. So in the other car with Shamea, Cynthia, Kelli, and Porsha, I felt very bad because Shamea gets a phone call from Gerald, her husband, and their little girl is having some problems because, as we know, she has health issues, and because of those health issues, it causes other prolonged issues, and I just hated to hear that because it sounded like it was very bad and it was so sad. And Shamea felt horrible. I mean, who wants to be at a trip when in another country when you know your baby child is like this? So when they all head back and got to the house, I thought it was so powerful and so nice to see that they all surrounded Shamea and comforted her. Because, at the end of the day, other than Brit, all of these women share that bond of motherhood. They know what it's like. So I thought this was a beautiful moment. Like, we want to see more of this. And Brit actually hugged Shamea and said, you got us. We are your village. None of this is important compared to what you're going through. But, to be honest, she started to sound a little crazy because she started to say, I get you. I love you. I will always have your back. I will always be there for you no matter what. I mean, it was nice, but I was like, oh, wow, she's very passionate. Brit then decides to get a little wild, and she's like, let's all turn up, and she starts to get the alcohol and take her top off. Wow. And that was the end of the episode. As I said, you guys, that was a pretty good episode. Again, still kind of surprised that Brit chose not to go to the reunion. I mean, we only have 2 episodes left, as far as I know. So, I'm thinking, like, is there something major gonna happen in these next 2 episodes? Like, what would make Brit be such a coward that she doesn't want to go to the reunion? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, what could she have done that's so bad where, like, she doesn't want to even confront what she did? But anyway, you guys, like I said, good episode. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section about everything, what we know now about Brit, and what you thought about this episode. It was funny because this episode was focused on Brit quite a bit, So, yeah. But you guys, let me know. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.